Hello and welcome to the Quick Start Showcase of Battletech the Collectible Card Game. This tutorial will showcase one round of the game just so you get an idea of how the flow of the game works and to give it a shot yourself. This tutorial will not give you the entire rundown of how to start a game, how to do what's all the specifics, and so on and so forth. Those can be found in the rulebooks, which is found inside this mod on one of the tablets off to the side. You also can go to sarna.net for also the ruling listings in PDF form outside of this mod. So let's get started, shall we? Now this game is played in 6 distinct phases. You can find this on the side of the board, the giant order of play card. So there are 6 phases we're going to do. It's untap, draw, deploy, repair and reload, missions, and end of turn. So let's get started, shall we? So this is a midst of a battle between Comstar, which is us, against the dreaded Jade Falcon clanners. So let's get started, shall we? The very first thing we're going to do at the start of our turn is to untap cards. Usually when unit cards are tapped, that means they did something in the previous turn. For cards that are command cards, such as these resources, like these support resource cards, they give us resources to build things, but in order to get these resources, we have to tap them. So let's go ahead and untap them. Unit cards can also be tapped if they were sent on missions or engaged in some form of combat. So we can go ahead and also untap them. Basically, everything gets untapped. Once everything is untapped, we can now proceed with the next phase. The next phase is the draw phase. We'll draw 2 cards from our stockpile, one at a time. 1, 2. There you go. Draw phase is complete. Very simple. Now it's the meat of the game, which is known as the deployment phase. The deployment phase is there's a lot going to be happening. Here we're going to be constructing new cards. We're going to be eventually so we'll be constructing new cards, deploying new cards, and expanding our industries and whatnot. So during the deployment phase, we can deploy up to 2 cards from our hand into the construction zone. Or we can also spend resources on our existing command cards to also further advance constructing units. We have, if you notice, the cards in the construction zone are face down. This is so your opponent has no clue what you're building. This can only be revealed if the enemy sends units to attack your units under construction, and will reveal them if there was no defender nearby. This will give the enemy intelligence and possibly destroy whatever you are building. So, what are we building? Since the enemy can't see, let's see, shall we? We are building a grasshopper, and we're building a trebuchet. When we're building cards, we want to be looking at that top left number. That is the amount of resources required to build it. Here, this grasshopper has 1, 2, and 3 tokens, construction tokens, meaning it has 3 resources that were used to build it in previous turns. These tokens will stay on it until this unit has been completed building or it was destroyed through multiple raids. So, grasshopper needs 1 more token to finish building. So let's go ahead and do that here. So in order to get resources, we can go to our support command cards, such as Assembly, Tactics, and Logistics. If you notice, how do we know that these give us resources? If you notice in the text box in the middle of the card, you'll see an arrow pointing to the right and the letter R. That arrow means if you tap this card, you'll get R, or resources. So let's tap Tactics. This will give us 1 construction token used for building. If we place this on the grasshopper, it will finish building. So let's reveal it. Once it's finished, we are allowed to reveal it. Should we choose to do so, we can also continue building this grasshopper even though it's not completed, mostly for mind games. Some cards, however, will benefit from doing stuff like that. So let's go ahead and activate the card. Once the card has been activated, your opponent now knows what you have built. However, units, when finished construction, do not go to what's essentially your patrol line. They must wait until the end phase of your turn in order for that to happen. So he's going to sit here and chill a little bit. Now let's try building the next unit over. The next unit is a trebuchet. It requires 1 resource. However, if you notice, unlike the grasshopper, it has 2 off-colored ovals underneath the resource icon in the top left. Resource required. You'll see an A1 and an M1. These are assets that you need, and if you do not possess these assets, you'll have to pay the penalty, which is the number in the circle. Thus, if we have an assembly, we do not have to pay the 1 extra resource penalty under assembly. If we have 1 munitions, we don't have to pay the penalty under 1. So let's say what we have. We have 1 assembly. If you notice at the bottom of the command card, you'll see an A. That means it's an asset. Assets give you unique player-wide bonuses to your deck, as long as it's in your command post. Assets do not stack, however. That's why if you have 5 assets, it won't means you cannot use the asset's power 5 times. If you wonder what an asset's power is, you can just read it on the card. Here, assembly will allow us to repair. This will be useful later on. So, we do have assembly, but we do not have munitions. So the total cost of this card is going to be 2 resources. We only have 2 command cards remaining, and I do like to save one of them for repairs later on. So we'll just spend 1 resource to build for now. If we can expand our economy, however, we can construct even more stuff. So let's go ahead and let's see what we can do to expand our economy. We do have a support munitions, so let's go ahead and deploy it. We deploy our cards face down like so. Because this card costs 0, we may reveal it immediately, otherwise we would have to spend resources to build it. Command cards, unlike unit cards, may be deployed, once activated, may be deployed immediately effective. So let's go ahead and let's deploy it immediately. This Grasper, unlike this command card, since it's a unit card, has to wait till the end of the turn, once again. Now we can use this munitions to get even more resources. But we don't need any. Since this munitions has granted us the M, we now have access to that asset, thus the cost of Trebuchet has been reduced. Now we can flip and activate Trebuchet, since now we have the appropriate resources and assets as well. Now we're down to 1 deployment remaining. So let's start construction of another unit. Let's say we want to build the Sandhurst Royal Military Academy. We'll go ahead and we'll put it face down. We'll tap our munitions that we just deployed for 1 additional resource, and leave it there for now. Don't forget that these resource tokens carry over multiple turns. So we can take as many turns as we need to build something. It does not have to be constructed immediately. Now, our deploy phase has been completed. We deployed 2 cards from our hands, which is the maximum we can. We deployed the munitions, and we deployed the Sandhurst Royal Military Academy. Next up is we're going to do the repair and reload phase. The repair and reload phase allows us to use any command cards if they have the repair function on it, or if we have an assembly asset in play, we can also spend any resources that we have available in order to make 1 repair per turn. Once again, assets do not stack. If you have 3 assemblies, you may not make 3 repairs. The same could be said of any other asset in play. It only ever counts once. So, let's go ahead and repair. We can see that we have some damage tokens on some of our units. We're going to spend 1 resource, our remaining resource, on our assembly, and that will allow us to remove 1 damage token from any of our units. Let's fully repair our mongoose and prepare for the future combat that we'll have. There we go. Now that mongoose is repaired, she's ready to continue her fight. Now, during this phase, you may also rearm units. There will be some units that have the function called Alpha Strike, and Alpha Strike allows you to increase the overall output of your mech, damage output of your mech, at the cost of depleting. Being Alpha Strike means that your mech returns to your patrol line face down, and it's unable to do anything. But during the rearm phase, we may flip it face up, which means now it can continue to defend and commit to further missions in the following turn. Luckily, luckily for us, we don't have any units with Alpha Strike, so we don't have to worry about it for this time. But that's for future reference. With repair and reload done, we may now initiate our missions. Now we get to bring the fight to the enemy or defend our bases, deck, or construction zone. Now you might be wondering, okay, we're learning all this whole concept of the game, but how do you win? To win, you have to make sure your deck, your stockpile, is still functioning and not depleted. If you reduce your enemy's deck down to 0, you will win the game effective immediately. So the goal is destroy the enemy's deck. Now, in this game, a mission that you can give to your units means it can be anything, really. You can send your units to attack an enemy mech. You may use it to attack an enemy command post. You may even use it to attack enemy construction zones. Heck, if you wanted to, you can even target an enemy unit on the field. Missions can be whatever you want it to be, offensively and defensively. Defensively, you may send units to guard your deck, command posts, other mechs, or defend whatever you're building. Now, units that are by default on your patrol line are able to react to any threats immediately. So you don't always have to be, hey, this unit has to guard this unit has to guard this, and so on and so forth. That'll be very static and rigid. Units on the patrol line use their speed, which is the speedometer on the unit, to intercept enemies instead of having to guard only specific assets. This is good for fast and medium speed units. However, slow speed units like the Black Knight would generally prefer to have guarding missions to catch fast enemy mechs. To catch an enemy unit, you must be as fast or faster than them. So the Black Knight may have a lot of trouble dealing with raiders, whereas Quick Draw and Mongoose will have an easier time dealing with them. But we're not going to be passive this round. We want to bring the fight to the enemy. So let's go ahead and send a mission out to attack the enemy's assets. So, who can attack and how many? When you launch an attack, you may launch as many missions or as you wish, defensively or offensively as you wish. And it can be as many units as you like. So let's go ahead and let's attack the enemy's high command. Destroying this will be a huge boon to our forces. In this mission, we're going to launch an assault using our Quick Draw and our Black Knight to launch an attack against the enemy's high command. Once our attack has been launched, the opponent will have to choose to decide whether he's going to defend his asset or let the attackers overwhelm his asset, in this case his command post. In this case scenario, the opponent will use one of his units to defend. When you attack as a group, the unit with the slowest speed is used instead of the unit with the higher speeds, or the average, and so on and so forth. So any of your unit in his force is able to defend, except for two if you notice. Units that are tapped may not be sent on additional missions or guarding missions. They essentially have finished their mission and are basically resting up, readying for their next turn for new orders. This urban mech, if you notice, is actually guarding this deck. He will not be able to participate in this battle. When a unit is guarding, it may only protect one asset or one site. In this case, he's protecting the deck. So the only two units the opponent, the Jade Falcon Clan Jade Falcon's units he has available, is either the Nova or the Jenner 2C. In this case, he desperately wants to keep his high command intact, so he'll send the Nova and his Jenner to defend. If he wished to, he can just let the enemy attackers go through or send one unit. You may send as many as you like. Now we're in combat. The first thing we do in combat is we check initiative. Initiative is used to determine the maximum number of mission cards you may play. Mission cards are the unique looking cards that give you a tactical edge during combat. You may play one mission card for every initiative point you have. Your starting initiative is at 0, but it can be increased through several means, such as jumping or having tactical assets. In this case, we have the support tactics, so our base tactics is now 1 instead of 0. Our opponent, however, does not have any tactics asset, thus he will have a base initiative of 0. The player that's losing initiative has to decide how to increase his initiative or concede it to his opponent. In this case, he could choose to jump, which will increase his initiative at the cost of attack power. Unfortunately, he sees this as an issue, and although he sees that he needs to maximize his attack power instead of reduce it, and he will be glad to concede initiative instead of having it in the first place. With the initiative conceded, the Comstar forces will have won the initiative, thus Jade Falcon must go first. During the initiative phase, you also may play mission cards that will increase your initiative. You may not play mission cards, however, that will have an actual combat effect. Now, once the initiative phase is over, we now actually go into actual combat. The player who loses initiative goes first. He may use any abilities on his unit's cards as he wishes, and you may use each ability only once. Here, you have Blackhawk, or Nova, who has the long range ability. This is not going to be very useful on the defensive, but it allows him to snipe the actual target instead of having to fight the defenders. When enemies are defending, the actual target is unable to be reached, unless you have some form of long range or missile strike. The Jenner only has the jump ability, so neither have any unique abilities that can help him in this fight. If you notice in the bottom left, you have a white number on the top of a red number, with a white circle and another number. That top white number is your attack power. Jenner C2C has attack power 3, and the Blackhawk C has an attack power 3 as well. Each attack power gives you 1 damage token you may use. Here, they have a total of 6 attack power. This may be divided or stacked all in one unit, doesn't matter, you may divide it as however you see fit. The Jenner 2C has decided to do 2, 3 damage to the quick draw. And then the Nova decided to put 1 additional damage on the quick draw, and then 2 on the Black Knight. With the damage having been dealt, it is now Comstar's turn. Comstar can use either unique units abilities, which we have Overheat and Overheat. Or, of course, you can also use a jump, although in this case, there's no reason to fight for further initiative at this point. So here, we can see that Comstar has realized, oh no, our forces are being battered hard. With this now knowledge, since the opponent, apparently, at this point, the opponent didn't realize what what Comstar is going to do, we now have a tactical edge. We now know exactly where the damage is going. Combat is simultaneous, so even if Quick Draw somehow died, it still will be able to attack. Knowing that Quick Draw is in a bad shape and very close to being destroyed, we're going to play our mission card. We have at least 1 initiative. We'll play Defensive Formation. This will prevent 1 damage to each of our units. Here we go, we will move 1 damage token from each of our units. With this tactical edge on our side, we can now proceed with our counterattack. We get 3 damage from Black Knight, and then we get 2 from Quick Draw. Not enough to outright destroy mechs, but we can use our abilities. For example, we can use Black Knight's Overheat ability. If you read it, it'll say Overheat, a number, and then plus attack power. That number under next to Overheat is how much you damage Black Knight. So we're going to go ahead and damage Black Knight 3 times. There we go. Black Knight has hurt itself 3 times by pushing its weapons to the limit, but it will increase its attack power by 3, thus having a total attack power of 6. Now it's able to do a lot of damage. Now, knowing that Quick Draw is heavily damaged, overheating Quick Draw may be a death sentence. So we're going to avoid it. Now that we know what's going to happen, now we know what happened to Quick Draw, it may not be a bright idea. So we have a total attack power of 8. And thus we can divide the damage accordingly. So let's try stacking 3 onto the Jenner. And then finally stack the rest on the Nova. You are allowed to do overkill in this game, and sometimes you may want to, especially if you're losing initiative, to guarantee that you may kill something unless your opponent has some sort of ability to go ahead and pull out a cheeky mission card to protect them from dying. With this done, now we resolve the damage. To resolve damage, look underneath the attack power, which is right here. The 2 and the 8 for Black Knight is its defense. The 2 represents armor. This can negate attacks that happen during this battle phase. So here it can remove 2 tokens of damage. Next to it is its structure. Structure is more permanent damage. While armor can be immediately repaired as soon as combat is over, structure cannot. So anything that damages the structure is retained. The Black Knight can sustain up to 8 points of structure damage before it's destroyed. We'll go on to the Quick Draw and do the same thing. will remove 2 damage tokens done from this battle, and then 1 will remain. It has 3 structure remaining. If it has 3 more tokens left on it, it will be destroyed. The General, on the other hand, unfortunately receives directly 3 damage to its structure. The General did not make it and was immediately destroyed. Thus, it goes into the scrap heap. The Nova has sustained heavy damage, but it's still able to keep fighting. With combat over, we scrap any mission cards that were played, tap all units in combat, even if it was just guarding, and they return to their respective battle lines. There you go. That was a mission, just as you saw it. Now, let's see what happens when Mongoose decides to conduct a raid. Mongoose can raid any enemy asset, and the opponent will not be able to do anything. All opponent units are either too slow, since the Mongoose has a speed of F or fast, or they're doing something else, or they've spent their only mission. If you notice, the Urban Mech, even if it wasn't guarding, would never be able to catch it due to its slow speed. If this was a fast mech in this location instead of Urban Mech, it still wouldn't be able to catch this Mongoose since it is guarding only the deck and nothing else. However, should Mongoose choose to attack the deck, then Mongoose, no matter how fast it is, cannot evade the Urban Mech since it's already on site, ready to defend. That's combat in a nutshell. You may do combat as much as you like, or guarding as much as you like. Like in this case, since Guillotine's not particularly fast, and we see no further need to attack, we can set Guillotine to defend our deck or any other asset. Perhaps maybe Mongoose could be sent to finish off the enemy's units and whatnot. There are special rules dealing with certain scenarios, such as this, or attacking things under construction, and so forth. These rules are more detailed in the rulebook, which you can find on the tablet or on Sarna.net. So let's say this is the end of our mission phase, thus that's it. Finally, we enter the end phase. The end of turn phase, we put mechs and other units you activate this turn on patrol and tell your opponent you've ended your turn. So, those units that we have finished constructing, we now remove all construction counters on them. Oops. And now they move straight to our patrol line, and they're ready to fight and defend as we see fit. And there you have it. That was one full round of Battletech, the official card game. Eventually, both players will keep going back and forth until eventually someone's deck is destroyed. When a mission's been sent against someone's deck, for every point of damage that we do to it, we will destroy 1 card out of his deck. We can do the same by destroying cards in his construction zone or destroying his command post structures. By weakening his army and his command post and eventually his deck, you will finally achieve victory. Well, that's all there is to Battletech the card game. It's not a particularly hard game, so give it yourself, give it a shot yourself. You should read the rule books for how to start up. It's pretty simple. It's 5 cards per player, and the first player who goes first draws only 1 and deploys 1 instead of the usual 2. After him, you proceed the game as normal. So that's all there is to it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and hopefully you enjoy playing Battletech, the official card game.